Why are the four fixed signs of tropical astrology, which are Taurus the bull, its polar opposite is Scorpio, the eagle, the ancient symbol. Aquarius is the face of a man, that's its symbol, and its opposite is Leo, the lion. Those four images are in churches all over the world. I went here to St. Louis, to the St. Louis Cathedral. There's Jesus, all these angels, and there are the four fixed signs of the zodiac in the church. I've seen it all over the place because astrology is in the Bible. Hi, I'm Carmen Turner Schott, and this is Your Superior Self.
Carmen, it's been too long, my dear friend, and I feel like you're my soul sister because we have so much in common. We love talking about some of the similar issues in the world and the same topics related to spirituality. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. I love talking to you. I love coming on. Your show's amazing. So many great topics and just deep conversations. I just love it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we're two peas in a pod when it comes to spirituality. I mean, you're like this master astrologer, and you definitely give me insight on just the energies that I'm experiencing, especially since April. I appreciate that insight. I feel like a lot of us are feeling kind of like since the eclipse, which I didn't put too much emphasis on when it was happening, but it feels like there's a shift going. And I feel like I've been saying that for like 5 years. I feel like there is some type of shift, and every time I feel like it's going to settle back down, it just seems to accelerate and go further into chaos. So, can you talk a little bit about that? Since the eclipse that happened in April, what have you been experiencing in your reality?
Yeah, so it was pretty intense because we haven't had this type of an eclipse in a while, and it was a big deal. People were traveling all over the world to go to different locations to be able to see it, and it was a big hype all over the news, and and I thought, okay, it's going to get dark for a little bit, and but then when I started looking into it to see what house it was going to affect me in my birth chart, because that's what you need to know is your basic birth chart, because it's important to see what was going on April 8, 2024. What house, what area of life that eclipse was in is what area of life is going to be awakened and you're going to be tested in. And so what happened to me is when I pulled mine up, I'm like, oh no, because I'm an Aries moon, both of us are. And I had that stellium on April 8th. Everything was in Aries: the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, the node. And it was all in my 8th house, which in astrology is the house of death and rebirth. And I thought, oh man. And I was, I knew something was going to happen. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have some type of a loss. I'm going to transform in some way. This is like deep, dark, taboo house, right? Energies. And I thought, what is going to happen? Well, I felt a lot of, I don't say anger, but intensity. Like it just, like my body, like the energy was so high and affected me. I actually went and laid down, and I never take naps. I laid down that day when it was happening, and I was just closing my eyes trying to rest. I'm like, just I need it to be over. Because I just felt so intense. And as the day went on, I had a headache, which is interesting because Aries rules the head, the brain. They're prone to migraines, headaches, things with their eyes, their vision as well. And I thought, okay, this makes sense. And then online, everyone's like, I have a headache. People were saying these things. So you could see this pattern of that Aries, eclipse affecting people's physical body. And I know it was affecting mine. And that night, I had something crazy kind of happen. And I'm still trying to heal from it. It sounds, silly talking about it now because I'm over it and I can't get it back. But I was trying to clear space on my phone and the night of the eclipse, and was, messing around with phone. Finally, had trouble sleeping, but finally got to sleep, got up the next day, and I went to get on my Mac, and I had no desktop files. And I had this Mac for 8 years. So all the books I've written, all the manuscripts. Oh, and by the way, the book that I've been working on for my publisher, all gone, wiped. And so they gave me an extension, by the way, which I just turned in half of the book on Monday. But I lost everything. And I had a good cry. I panicked. I called Apple support. They said, we don't know how, but it is also deleted from your cloud. I'm like, I knew. I did not go and delete it from the cloud. They said, we don't know how to get it back unless you had an external hard drive. I'm like, of course I didn't have an external hard drive. So I lost 8 years of pictures, all the
Wow.
thousands of charts I've done, Trey, gone. All of it's like everything I'd done wiped like a clean slate. But that's what the new moon did. It's like it completely erased and like a rebirth happening in that area of life. So for me, I'm glad I didn't lose a loved one. I was scared somebody close to me was going to pass away or something really intense. It was my things I'm attached to. It was taken, but you can't get it back. So I had to just accept that this was meant to happen. And that same week, that same day or two, had a car accident. Nothing serious. I was okay. Then burnt my finger real bad. And then it was, of course, this finger, so I couldn't type or do much. And I thought, okay, 3 things, very Aries, accidents, fire, all Aries stuff, headaches, vision stuff, all this stuff. And in the midst of this, I was moving, finally bought a home out of the blue, then trying to sell my house. So it was just a lot of upheaval and a lot of crisis, like a feeling like around me, there was a lot of people in crisis, like at work, and people calling me wanting help, or advice, and people getting real emotional, because, as Aries moons, we have, a little bit of a temper, because Aries are passionate and they care about expressing their emotions. And they're very honest and blunt and truthful people. So that eclipse brought out everybody's Aries, and people that don't have an Aries moon or sun aren't real comfortable with Aries energy. If that's not your normal birth chart and you're not used to feeling that, it was a stellium. Everything in the sky was in Aries. So it was very powerful, and because Aries are the most resilient sign. So they can get knocked down, but they always get back up, and they're fighters. They're the warrior. They're the warrior. And so in your chart, I was looking at your chart, you had that solar eclipse in your 3rd house of communication. And also it's also the house of siblings. So I don't know if you have any siblings, but it's also the house of siblings. And you had that stellium right there on your moon. Your natal moon is in Aries in the 3rd house. And you have that new moon eclipse was right on that house. And so it's going to affect how you think, how you communicate, how you interpret information, how you digest information, what you want to learn, what you're interested in. It's going to impact all of that. And also travel, because when we look at one house, we always want to see what is the opposite house, because transits affect both. So that affects your 9th house, which is your beliefs. It's questioning your philosophy, your religion, your beliefs, your hope, your faith. All of that is also transformed. And a need to travel, maybe a desire to travel more or explore, be adventurous. It kind of awakens some of that 3rd and 9th house energy for you. And the thing about Aries is we're still being affected by this solar eclipse energy. It's been it's only been 6 months. I think we're going to be affected for probably till the fall.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not going to go away. And part of the reason is because the nodes, the north and south node, which are, the way I explain it is, they're mathematical points in space that astrologers call fate, destiny, and purpose. So in a birth chart, when we're born, we always want to look at where's the north node, because that's our soul mission this lifetime. And then we want to look at where's the south node, because that's our past lives. That's what our soul has already mastered and feels very comfortable doing. But we came here, this life, and picked this birth chart to learn a new lesson. And that's our north node, which in the chart, it looks like these headphones. Like you're wearing headphones is the north node. And then the south node is like upside down headphones, right? And also looks like horseshoes. And so you need to know where your north node is and south node. It's really important, because that's your soul mission, the sign that it's in, and the area of life that it's in, which astrologers call the houses. And there's ways to analyze that. And so right now, and for a while now, the north node in the sky right now is in Aries, and the south node is in Libra. So that was also going on during the solar eclipse and all that Aries energy, and it's still affecting us now, these nodes. And these are the nodes of relationships. So there's relationship karma right now going on for everyone. And so karma, means things to many different people, but the karma is really about healing your relationships. So anyone on earth right now, whether you believe in astrology or not, your relationships are your challenge right now, because that's astrology, it's energy. So that north node of Aries is making people have to fight for freedom, self-reliance, independence. And Aries is like, what about me? Because Aries is their word is I am. So what about my needs? What about my goals? And then Libra's like all about the partner, all about other people, and kind of people pleasing in a way, like not speaking up for themselves. Libras are peacemakers. So all of us are in this battle of being peaceful and helping our partner, but also what about us? Speaking up for our own needs and our own wants and our own goals. So there's a battle, like a balance going on, and a battle between autonomy and independence with commitment and feeling like you have to focus on the partner and not pursue what you want. So there's like this pull that a lot of people are feeling, and there's more bickering, there's more arguments, there's more conflict going on in relationships, at work, in our personal lives, in our families. I mean, I'm seeing this with all my clients right now, and at work. And that's because the nodes are in Aries and Libra right now in the sky. So that's a big one. It's still that energy affecting us right now.
Sure. I just feel like there's some type of, I don't know, maybe it's just my perception, but I feel like a lot of people are starting to awaken to the fact that Western idea of what we think of as purpose or the American dream is slowly dying, right? Like this idea of getting a career, having the white picket fence, family, buying a house in suburbia, and
Yeah.
living in a cookie cutter neighborhood, and living till retirement age, and then
Yeah.
living the rest of our life, and
And
happily
dying.
ever after. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like people are starting to slowly awaken to just this fallacy behind that. Like I feel
Yeah.
like that was our great grandparents' dream, and I feel like it's a great dream for them. But I feel like us, as we
Yeah.
evolve and as we
Yeah.
uh, learn more just through technology, and being able to access different YouTube channels and
Mhm.
conversations about spirituality and books and literature and ancient wisdom, I
Yeah.
feel like there's this accelerated growth towards knowing more who we are, and then like really searching for that. So when you hit on travel,
Mhm.
I love traveling because I feel like it's like cleaning the soul. It's like moving
Yeah.
from one energy to the next, a newer one, like exploring that. How does this feel? Like we're getting ready to go to California in about a
Oh,
week or
nice.
so, a week and a half. And the
Nice.
energy out there is just so different
Yeah.
than East Coast. It's I don't know,
Absolutely.
I can't put my finger on it. Like I don't know how else to say,
Yeah.
but it just feels a little bit more freer. But the
Yeah.
travel in that, the excitement to be able to go and put myself in that energy is just so exciting. It's like freeing, it's cleansing, it's exploring the unknown, like the possibilities. What can I create? This new idea of creation, this new idea of manifestation. Like I just get into this flow state of, just excitement. And so I feel like a lot of people are experiencing that and they want more of that.
Yeah.
So in your studies, and you're writing this new book,
Yeah.
that you have coming out, like where do you see society going? How do you see us evolving further? Like at the end of the year, like will there be more chaos with the energies and people like picking up and moving and changing and altering their lives drastically
Yeah.
to kind of go after that yearning, going after that curiosity, going after that pull towards exploring newer energy and exploring what that means for them in this life?
Absolutely. I've been feeling that, like, we talked before, we both work full-time jobs, and we, do two jobs really. And lately I've just been feeling this intense desire just to walk away and quit, just to walk away. And because what's been holding me is the security. It's the feeling of having that retirement, like you're talking about, which when I really think about it, I don't know if I'll even be alive to see it.
Mm,
Like I'm in this new state of, I don't know what tomorrow's going to be. I want to do what brings me joy now. And I've been feeling this kind of like a push. Like I know that I'm not going to be able to keep doing what I'm doing because I've been unhappy. And so when I think a lot of people are afraid of taking a risk, and I know that's been my greatest challenge is taking a risk, because my self notice Taurus, and Tauruses don't like change. Tauruses like comfort and stability, and they don't want to struggle. They don't want to suffer. They want to be able to provide for themselves and their family. The security needs, like Maslow's hierarchy, food, shelter, the basics. And then if
mhm.
that's okay, then they like nice things, and like, to do certain things. But my thing is really, I know that fear is not real. So when I finally kind of shifted, okay, I know I'm meant to be a Scorpio, which is let things die, cut people off, cut energy off, quit jobs, apply for something else, and don't care. And where my Taurus is like, no, I can't do that. How what my family think? What will, my husband, I'm making a paycheck. I can't let my paycheck go. You get in this thing, and I'm like, but I got this other stuff that I'm doing that brings me joy. Will I make the same amount of money doing what I'm doing at the normal 9 to 5 job? No. But I don't care anymore, Trey. Like I'm getting the point where I don't care. Like I have to make a change. And so I can feel the shift. Like, I've been, looking out there, open to other jobs, open, telling the universe, hey, take me where I'm meant to go. And all I keep doing is meeting people that want me to do astrology stuff with them, or want me to do more in my spiritual realm. And I
Mm.
keep meeting people. And so I'm having the signs, but it's taken that leap of faith. And I'm meeting lots of people that are feeling the same way. Like they're like, I'm working so hard, but I can't hardly afford anything, because things are so expensive. And then they get in this whole mindset. And, sometimes I just want to downsize, like you said, go out and live in the woods or something, in a cabin, grow my own food. and and everyone's kind of, I think,
Yeah, I've had those thoughts, like taking your power back and getting,
yeah,
unplugging from the
yeah.
system. Like I was listening to a guy today talk about how he spent 2 years in Africa
Oh, wow.
and it's very primal living there, right? Wherever
Oh,
he
yeah.
was at.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
he spent 2 years there and he was like 17 hours away from the closest city.
Wow.
I think the grocery or wherever he got his supplies was like an hour away from him.
Wow.
But it was very primal. He didn't even speak the language. He had to learn how to communicate with the people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just imagine that, like just living with a very organic society who is probably more plugged into the universe than we
Yeah.
are, and living there for 2 years. And he talked about how when he moved back to the East Coast,
Yeah.
like he had this reverse culture shock of like going from that to this. And he was like, he
Yes.
was in depression for like 9 months, like
Oh, yeah.
9 months, just coming back
Yeah.
to here. You would think coming from there, not having a cell phone, not having technology, not having any of
Mhm.
that, and uh, basically, living on the basics and coming back
Yes.
to that, and coming here where we're a first world country,
Yeah.
um, and having all the luxuries that we have, you would be more happy. But yet he was depressed for 9 months, and very
Absolutely.
rarely came out of his house because of that shock.
Yeah.
So it always makes me like wonder, like,
Yeah.
do we have it wrong? Like,
Yeah.
should we go back to the basics? Should we learn to be, um,
Mhm.
you know, cultivators of our own food supply? Like, you know what I mean? Going out and living in nature and learning the basics again. So that way we unplug and not have to live off of or consume
Yeah.
from the society in which we created that one is killing us, you know, with
Yeah.
the stress of, you know, just paying bills and keeping
Yeah.
up with the Joneses, and then eating a lot of the food that is just highly, um, I would say, what's the word that I want to call it? It's
Processed, contaminated.
processed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
highly processed food.
Recalled every day. I see a new recall
Yeah,
of food
yeah,
on the internet. It's like, is anything safe to eat anymore? It's like,
yeah.
God.
I know, right? And then, but I just feel like we were born into it. So we don't like,
Yeah.
we probably, you know, could I go out and live on my own?
Yeah.
I would lose a lot more weight, and it would take me a long time to survive and be, you know, sustain
Yeah.
that lifestyle. But I think, you know, if we were more geared towards that, and I always wonder if we'll ever go back to that. Like, if at a certain point, at a certain juncture in our evolution where we're like, enough is enough. Let's
Yeah.
just cut ties with, you know, all governments, all religious
Yeah.
establishments, and like
Yeah.
start creating these pockets of tribes, these pockets of
Yeah.
our own like organic civilizations, and going back and help
Yeah.
heal the earth, help, you know, help with, you know, just learning how to live organically off the land again. And then, you know, maybe we'll have that connection. Maybe we'll start reconnecting with the universe, and speaking to the higher beings that the indigenous
Yeah.
tribes and peoples were able to do back way back when, and still probably can do now.
Yeah.
It always makes me so curious. It's funny you say that.
Well, if you think about it, was weird. Like we lived in Germany for 6 years, but the first time I went over there, it was a culture shock, and it was in a good way though. Like back then, though, we didn't have cell phones and all this stuff we have now. This was like night. This was 2000 to 2003. But I love to travel, the travel and everything, but everything was so simplistic. Like it was historic. They don't tear buildings down; they keep them. The food is fresh and healthy, right? And I remember just, just seeing how simple a life it was. We didn't have internet, we didn't have TV, and the Americans living over there, they had the Armed Forces Network, right? And we lived in a village in Germany, and we couldn't get the Armed Forces Network, and they would patch American shows through. So I went, my grandfather would send me video cassette tapes of shows and record me stuff and mail it to Germany. But I would read a lot more, and I was always going on a trip. I wasn't stuck on the TV. And there was no air conditioning. We would have to. They don't have air in Germany in the houses, and you just open the windows. They have these Rouladen things, and so I came back to America the first time after we lived there, and it was the iPhones, the cell phones were getting big, and everybody started getting more technological, and then we went back again to live in Germany in 2015 to 2013 to 2015, and it was hard to go. It was harder than ever was to go over there. I think, one, because we were older and we had my daughter, but also because we didn't have air. It was so hot, and even at work, even at my office, we didn't have air. So you were blow, fans. My daughter would sleep on an air mattress in the summer in our room in the basement of we lived in a German village, and we didn't have TiVo. I was used to being able to pause the TV and record and all this, all these little things you don't think about. And we would say we're spoiled. I remember, we'd say we're so spoiled with all these little conveniences. And our neighbors, our German neighbors, would be out there fanning themselves. It was 100-degree weather. We didn't have air. And that was just how it was. And then the fall and winter was beautiful, and we moved back, and I felt a little depressed, like, cause you get fresh food, everything's fresh salad. You go in these little, villages and eat, and we lived there. I mean, it was like, you get used to it. And then I came back over here, and it was like really hard to adjust back. And it was freezing all the time, because now I had, oh my gosh, central air, like have my sweater on. And then I'm like, oh, TV. Oh, okay. And it's like you get used to something. And it made me think, because I went on a trip to Ephesus, Turkey, and I went on a tour, and I went on this, went to see Istanbul, and we went to Ephesus, and they were talking about all the technology that they had there way a long time ago. And I'm like, wait a minute. And the tour guide was telling us they had like a sewer system, like all this stuff. I'm like, well, what happened? Like, how did we go back to outhouses? I mean, my grandfather said, they used to go tip outhouses when he was a kid. It's like, how, when in the civilizations like the pyramids in Egypt, and we had all this technology. So I think maybe Atlantis is true. Maybe we got so technological that maybe we were going through this same revolution, which is, I guess, Pluto in Aquarius, revolution, wanting to rebel, wanting to change things. The problem is technology's taken off, and AI and all this stuff too with Aquarius and Pluto. But it's like maybe back then they knew it wasn't working either.
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
then they went back to the basics again, like living simple.
What do you think astrology is a basic technology?
I think astrology is an energy, and I do think that it's guided civilizations since the ancient times. It's guided them, like how they plant their food, the solstices, all of these astrological events. They lived and watched. I mean, I can't imagine the first. So I was thinking about this last solar eclipse. I'm sure they freaked out when the caveman days, when everything went black forever. They probably thought the world was ending. And they didn't know what that was. And but even like Nostradamus, all of these medical, famous people, psychics were astrologers. Nostradamus just started, that's how they created medicine, was through astrology. The humors and the different, body parts, and they used to associate it with each sun sign. I mean, all of medicine started from astrology. So it's like, I believe, God created it. I believe that it's in Native American cultures, they call it different things, but it's all the sky, it's all the stars, it's the planets, it's our solar system.
Mhm.
And I think it's a tool that has been kept from us because it's so powerful, and it awakens people, and it can explain why things are the way they are in your life.
Can it predict the future?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a quote from I can't remember. It says billionaires use astrology, or something like that. There's a quote, because people know astrology works. Now there's business astrology, there's, financial astrology, there's medical astrology. There's all kinds of different, you could spend lifetimes learning astrology. Like I'm learning every day. I'm still learning something new, and I've been studying it since I was 16. It's amazing, and it's overwhelming, really. I mean, there's so much, but the basic thing that I like about it is it validates your life. Why? How is it so accurate? Like because it's real. And I think it's because it's energy. It's the sky. We're on Earth. It's impacting us. So it's not man-made, like a computer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, how does it how does the stars or how the planets, when they're aligned, their formations, like how does that have an effect on our personality? Like how is it when I'm born on May 10th that my personality, the persona in which I think is me,
Yeah.
has all these different influences from different planets? Like what is that energy? Like
Yeah.
how come?
Yeah. So what I believe it is, there's different kinds of astrologers. I'm a psychological astrologer. So I believe that we're souls, and our soul is energy. It's an essence. And when we're all connected, we're connected to the sun, the moon, the stars, we're connected to each other. There's a cosmic consciousness, so to speak. And so when I believe our soul chooses to come into the earth realm, the moment, time, place of birth, that our soul chooses to come in for learning, for karma, for certain situations. I believe we pick our parents. We pick the different situations that are going on. And I think we kind of get a glimpse of what our life will be like when we come into the earth realm. But once we come into the physical body, we don't remember choosing this, right? We're like, what are we doing here? I'm not from here. And I used to say, I'm an alien. Like, I don't belong here. I never felt like I was meant to be here. And I always felt different than everyone. And I always was really into these things that no one else knew about. And I didn't know why I believed in angels, and why I was even interested in ghosts and all these things. But it ended up being my chart. And when I finally started studying astrology when I was 16, I remember I cried. I actually got tears because I was reading about myself, and it was so accurate. And I'm like, I got to figure out what is this? Like, why is this so accurate? And so I started practicing like a scientist. I wasn't a 100% believer at first. I came into it as a skeptic, as a scientist. And I would meet people that I didn't know at St. Louis Bread Company, through graduate school. And I would do their charts, and they would cry. And how did you know that? How did you know that? Are you psychic? I said, no, I do astrology. I'm interpreting this. So it was amazing how accurate it was. It was like, you just validated my life, like in 1 hour. And so I started realizing it's a powerful tool to help us heal. But the reason that it validates us is because it's energy. You can't, energy's there. You can't always see it. But it's there. Like, you feel energy. Like, when you walk in the room, I've always been this way when I was young, but I didn't know what it was. In school, I come in the room and I could feel if people like me or not. I could feel if people were angry, if people were sad. I could feel their energy. And I tried to protect myself. I was very open. I was empathic, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what an empath was. I just thought I was ultra sensitive. And everybody said, oh, you're so sensitive. You're too nice, all this stuff. I didn't know that it was actually a spiritual ability, like a gift. And I was an empath. And I realize now, my gosh, if I would have known how to have boundaries and protect my energy, which my chart said I lack boundaries. Everything about me was, you need to protect your energy, ground yourself. But no one teaches you this. I mean, I was raised in the Midwest, in the Bible Belt, okay, in the Ozarks, okay, Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, the Show Me State. So I was raised Baptist, and this stuff was, I was naturally a believer in all of these things at 16. And so I know astrology is right, because when I started learning my chart and I had it done when I was 19, the astrologer said, anything you put before God will get taken away from you. That's what he told me. And he scared me a little bit. And I said, well, what the heck? And I said, is it because my son is in the 12th house? He said, yes. So that's when I got obsessed with researching the 8th and the 12th houses in astrology, specifically, the phoenixes and angels. That's been my main clientele and research, is people that have planets in the 12th and the 8th, which you do. You have Neptune in the 12th and your South Node in the 12th, which means that you've been spiritual. You've been on a search for God and why, the meaning of life. You bring that awareness in this lifetime again. You already have it. And so that's why you're interested in doing all the things you're doing, because it's what your soul's already mastered, these topics: cosmic consciousness, oneness with everyone, energy.
Well, it's funny that you say that, though, because I've been reading this this book, The Gospel of Thomas, and it's essentially like it's like an interpretation of the Gospel of Thomas. And I've been reading it, and there's this part in it, and I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit, like, but if you go down this path of searching, like, if I think Jesus, or they call him Yeshua in this book, they say that if you are searching, you must continue to, and I'm paraphrasing, if you're a seeker, you must continue to seek until you find, right? And then when you find, you will know, and when you know, you'll be disturbed, and because you'll know the truth. And then because you're disturbed, you will marvel at everything, and then you will reign over all, right? Like, it's very confusing, some of these lines, right? But the author was talking about, what if we start our journey of searching because inside we already know what it feels like to remember. Like, we know what that is going to feel like, or we already know. So it's the process of this whole remembering. And that really struck me. Like, what if I'm like, even our dreams, like the things, our desires that we go after.
Yeah.
Like, what if that is our soul pushing us because it already knows what it feels like for us to accomplish that? And so it wants us to feel that in this reality. And so people ask me all the time, like, is this your dream? Like, is the podcast your dream? Is speaking your dream? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. And it's been like, I've been doing this like 5 or 6 years, and some people would term it as like, are you at the level of success that you want? I mean, I don't know what that looks like. I know where I want to be, but my
Yeah.
dream is my dream. And someone
Yeah.
said, I think someone said to me the other day, was like, you're just not going to give up on it, are you? I was like, well, if you're willing to give up on your dream, it's not your dream. Like if you're willing to sell it, if you're willing to give up on it and quit, like you're not going, that's not your dream. That's someone
No.
else's dream. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's a goal. Like, but
Yeah.
your dream is like the book, The Alchemist, in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
that the universe is helping you nudging you across that finish line like the entire time, and like giving you breadcrumbs and
Yeah.
like just giving you guidance when you least expect it. And like you're gonna fall down and you're gonna question why, and you're gonna like forget like why you're doing it and all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
but at the end of the book, he finds his treasure, right? And I feel like
Yeah.
his soul knew that the entire time.
Yeah.
And so like that's why it set up everything up for him. But I want to read this quote because like I totally butchered it, and I think it's a really good one. So
Yeah.
in the book, it says, Yeshua says, whoever searches must continue to search until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. And being disturbed, they will marvel and will reign over all. So go ahead
Wow.
and interpret it the way that you want.
Image. Yeah. The
I just,
kingdom of heaven is within you.
yeah. But
Like
then it's
he
also
said.
like, but then he's also makes a good point in that too. He's like, we say that. For me,
Yeah.
I always thought the kingdom of heaven was external of me. It was like
Mhm.
a place that I have to go.
That's
Like
what
if
they
I'm
teach
good,
you. Yeah.
right? Exactly. And
You got to
even with
be
happiness,
perfect. Yeah.
materialistic ideas and concepts that happiness is outside of me. And
Yeah.
now everything's pointing back within, and to
Yeah.
search for that. The
Yeah.
soul remembers. But here's
Yeah.
the catch: you're creating duality again, because now you're going within, and everything outside of you is bad. So it's like a middle ground you have to find where you're.
Yes.
What does
Yeah.
Yeshua say? He says, "Be in this world, but not of it." Right.
Yeah.
So you got to be
Yeah.
in both worlds. You got to be in the
Yeah.
external, and you got to be in the inner, and you got to integrate the both.
Yeah. It sounds hard to do. That's why it's hard to, that's why this has been, people have been on these journeys since the beginning of time for their oneness, their enlightenment, whatever they
I
want to
can
call
only imagine how many times I've done it. Right. Like apparently, I have what, a house in the what is it, the 12th house.
it. You do.
I've already
You've
been
been searching
spiritual.
all over the world. You
Yeah.
were a wanderer, you were a traveler, you were a Sagittarius. You traveled the world seeking God. That's what you did for many lifetimes.
How do
You
you know that though? Just looking at
it,
that chart.
it's your I saw it in your soul record too. Because the chart is the record. It's your energy. It's your, I see you like in a robe. And I think I told you this, like I don't know if you were like a Franciscan. I know, where there was an order, order of people that are studying these things, traveling, trying to find, probably in the past, we believed and been in many different religious sects. You could have been a Buddhist one lifetime, you could have been a Hindu one, you could have been a Christian or Catholic priest, or I believe you've had many lifetimes in different religious beliefs. And then we choose to come back, but you have this awareness, like you said, inside. And I was the same way. I thought, this doesn't make sense. I remember when I would hear things, I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Well, you're going to go to hell if you do that, or this is, I'm like, no, this doesn't make sense. That's not what God is to me. Doesn't feel like loving to me. Like, and I would question things, and I didn't really know where it came from. But it's kind of that, like with you, like you have already done spiritual service. Okay. So what does that mean? Do you have any memories or feelings like you've been a different religion?
I feel like a really like to Hinduism and to
Yeah.
Buddhism, like
Yeah.
to Yogananda and the Eastern traditions. Like I feel a really strong resonance with that.
Yeah. You've, and that's South Node in the 12th. And Neptune is conjunct your node, which is the planet of spirituality. That's how I know. And the 12th house is the house of monks, priests, rabbis, nuns, being away from society, being not in the real world. and your node, your self node is your past lives in the chart. That's how I know that you've been religious before, you've been spiritual, you've been on a seeking. That's 12th house, seeking oneness with God and having a spiritual path. Like, you want to know the meaning of life. Your soul's already done that. So and it's not about giving it up. You have to balance it with the North Node this lifetime. So you're learning to be in the practical world, balancing the mystical and the spiritual and escaping into your imagination, into meditation, all those things, with having a routine, eating, sleeping, taking care of your health. Sixth house is your North Node. Your soul mission is to be healthy, is to focus on the body, what you eat, how you exercise, how you organize your routine day to day, how you get tasks done, how you help people in practical ways on the earth, because you've already done spiritual service. So your soul wants to learn practical service, which is sixth house. So you're balancing the nodes. Like, you don't ever lose what you come in with. Like, it's in your soul. It's a memory. It's a remembrance. You bring all of your memories with you. We don't remember consciously, but we feel, and we have them inside of us. There's and even people that don't believe in astrology, it's the same thing. Like my husband, he's very, he's not like us. And I got in the house, I told you we just bought a house, and I felt like it was meant to be. Like, I knew I was meant to be in this house. And when I look out the windows, it's like, I know it. And it was really cool because whoever lived here before had like an Asian art and Asian rocks and statues and stuff in the backyard. I just felt at home. And my husband, who's not a believer in anything, I was in the kitchen and I got deja vu. I was in there doing dishes. I felt like I've been here before. And I didn't say anything to him, because he knows he's been with me all these years, 25, but he's like, he just kind of, I thought he would laugh. I left the kitchen. I came in the living room, and he was sitting at the table, and he said, I just got a weird feeling. And he said, I feel like I've done this before. And I was like, oh my God. I said, I just thought the same thing in the kitchen. Like, I get chills because he is like totally. I said, oh my God, you had deja vu. He goes, I did. I go, well, tell me what, he goes, I don't know. I just looked out this window and I've been here before. I've done this before. My husband told me this. I'm like, wow. And I'm like, we definitely are meant to be in this house. So it's like those memories, or the feeling of, I've been here before. I've done this before. And you don't know, it doesn't make common logical sense, but like your heart knows, your mind knows.
Well, it's like I've had deja vu a lot, especially when I start getting more so into my meditations and my visualizations. And I wonder if it's like, you go back to these thoughts about the simulation hypothesis or simulation theory, many worlds theories.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, or hypothesize to myself, like, what if it's like I've lived this life astray many times, like maybe I've gotten to the end and I'm like, oh, I want to, it's just like playing a video game. It's like, I want to redo that. I'm going to hold up. There's a couple things I didn't finish there that I really want to experience as Trey, because I feel like this is a great opportunity, because I feel like I had what it took to get to where I needed to be. Let's try again. Right. And you get back and you play up to a certain level, and then you something happens and you don't achieve the thing again. And you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go back and try again. Maybe, like, I always thought maybe deja vu was like, there's little remembrances of like, oh crap. Like, I'm in this video game. I'm playing Trey. Like, I've gotten to this point. Maybe this is a checkpoint. Maybe this is like, all right, maybe this is like a little hint, a nudge saying you need to like kind of remember why you're here, because like you've done this 1,000 times.
Yeah. It's what's that movie? What is that movie with Tom Cruise where he keeps waking up and has to fight the same battle against the aliens? You know what movie I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But I always what is it? Groundhog Day. Like, I always think about Groundhog Day. Yeah,
it's kind of similar, like he knew her, and that's because he kept repeating this lifetime kind of a thing. I think that's why it's important to know about the nodes in your astrology chart, because we tend to repeat the south node, or we get to believing that we're supposed to keep doing what we've always done because our soul's used to that. And it gets uncomfortable because we're forced, the older we get, And it's because of Saturn return and all these different astrological patterns that happen, and that have to do with age, and triggers. They trigger us to get into our soul mission. So by the time people turn, let's see, the second Saturn return is age 57. By the time I do someone's chart and they're 61, they're in their north node. 100% of the time. I'll do charts for people when they're in their second Saturn return, and they're in their node. They're like starting to do things to get into that north node. They're like, yep, I learned there, been there, done that. Oh yeah, I'm teaching now. I'm doing this. So no matter what, we get into our soul mission regardless. We either go kicking and screaming. It's a little bit tough because we resist it, or we can go take steps to get into it. So when you know what you're meant to focus on, and you know what you're meant to do, like your focus is communication, teaching, talking, communicating, but also having a routine, diet, exercise, having structure, having organization, having to focus on practical things. Because see, before, you didn't have to do any of that. You were living out like on a mountaintop, meditating every day, dude. So like your soul, like what I saw in your record was you wanted to have a family. In those other lifetimes, you weren't allowed to have a family. This is what I saw when I did your thing. So I think that's why you chose to be born with a stellium in the house of home and family. Your main identity is in the fourth house. How you think, your passion is all in the home and family house. So your soul wanted the experience of that, of being a father, of being a husband, of being married, because when you're a religious ascetic or whatever, you're not allowed to have relationships. So your soul has had those lifetimes where you weren't able to marry. So I think part of that is your chart this lifetime. You see what I'm saying?
It's so interesting. Yeah. Well, it's always like, I always wondered, like, I read some of these books about these mystics and spiritual teachers, and I'm like, all right, yeah, you can go out and pray and do all these things on the mountain, but like, you spend your entire lives in the Himalayas. Like, I understand you learn and develop all these great spiritual gifts, these talents, these psychic abilities, being able to manifest this and materialize that and possibly teleport. I don't know. But like, how does that help mankind if you're not in the crap, like if you're not here? And I guess maybe that's why I chose to come here in the United States on the East Coast, like in the mess to for me, I'm not, I'm just saying, like, am I the Messiah? No, I'm just saying, like, I like to talk about spirituality. I like to explore consciousness. I like to have positive conversations about, just how we can improve one's perspective about reality and ourselves, and how we can work, and how we can become our superior selves. But I feel like that's the work, how can, and Tom Campbell said this one time, he was like, him and I had a conversation, and it was like, it's about, can you choose in the moment to be love, right? Like when your wife and you are arguing about something, can you just step away from the ego for a minute and just kind of like let that go and choose love over that, instead of being right? Can you just like step aside and say, all right, like, how can I support you right now? And it's tough. Let me tell you, it's tough, especially if you are right.
I know, right? Like, we like to be right,
It is tough, especially if you're right and you're like standing your ground and you're like, right, I don't care, I'm going, but then it's like you step back and like not allow the ego to kind of, talk you into fighting, and just kind of like surrendering to that, and then eat that, be humble, be humble in that, and just kind of like, that's like one step in the process of like expanding,
Yeah, it's kind of like, when I was a religion and philosophy major, and I was, reading all kinds of stuff, and I remember I just started focusing, okay, I just want to know, what did Jesus say? Like, what did Jesus actually say? And started reading that, and then, read books about Buddha and Jesus, and all the similarities, of the teachings. And the biggest thing is walking the walk, like living it. You got to live this stuff. Like, you can read all these things, and like Jesus said, like, all of, when I was homeless, No one fed me. I came to you. You didn't help me. When, like he is in everyone around us,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's taking care of people around you. It's the golden rule and the teachings of love your neighbor as yourself, like the golden rule. And that's what the New Testament's about. It's
You know,
like,
it's funny. Yeah. To your point though, and I don't mean to cut you off, but like
no, no,
I had a meditation the other day and it was
yeah,
like, to your point about loving other people and loving your neighbor, like
yeah,
it's because your neighbor is you at a different level. It
yeah.
just, it is like, it's a different like vibration of who you are. And I know that sounds like all so like, spiritualistic or whatever,
No,
new
it's
agey, but it's like in my meditation, it was like, you call these people in, these spiritual masters, for advice, and why do you think you can connect with them? Why do you think we're connected at a quantum level? It's because it's you. It's
yeah,
all of it is you. It's just at a different vibration or a different level of like consciousness to where like you're evolving, and like at some point that was you, and whatever it all it contributes to the progression of your soul. But
yeah.
before we go too far down that rabbit hole, um, I did want to ask you some questions about what is
Sure.
it? The 13th sign? Is it Ophiuchus? Is that what that is?
Ophelia, yeah. Yeah. Some people, I don't get really into that like big time, but yes, there is, let me look it up. Ophelius. I think it's called Ophelius. Hold on, let me put it in there. I read about it years ago. Yeah. So it's
I think it's
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus. It's known as the serpent bearer or snake charmer. It's sometimes suggested as a 13th sign. So it's in sidereal astrology. So Western astrology is tropical astrology, and that's what I use. That's what's in the Bible, like in the book of Genesis. God created the seasons, the hours, and the days and the years. So in tropical astrology, we go by the seasons, start the zodiac. So the cardinal signs, Aries starts the spring, Cancer starts the summer, Capricorn starts the winter, and so on. So in sidereal, they go by where everything is in the sky right now. So they go by the sky above now, where we know that things have shifted a bit, okay, with the constellations and stuff like that. So there's always a battle between tropical Western astrology and sidereal. So I have an Indian astrologer friend, and the way he explained it to me, it's kind of like the sky shifted over one sign. So in Vedic is also what's called Vedic astrology sidereal. I'm actually a Leo according to their dates and their calculations. I don't feel like a Leo. Like to me, Western tropical resonates. And so I always have people ask me, do you believe in Vedic? Or I said, go with what resonates with you, because I'm not going to tell people one is right and one's wrong. They're both tools. But sidereal is very different, and it's a totally different way the chart looks. It's like a square. It's a whole another lifetime studying Vedic astrology. I know just a little bit. Your rising sign will be a little different in Vedic compared to your tropical. It just shifts it over one sign, so to speak. And so they do believe that they have found this constellation, so they gave it its own birth dates and everything like that. I don't go by that. I go by the ancient times, which is tropical astrology never changes, because it's about the ecliptic and the planets that go along it and the seasons, and it never changes. So it's been that way since the beginning of time, even in the Bible. So like that's why I think there's something to tropical Western astrology that makes it so powerful. Because, for instance, so when I was in Germany and even in America, it's St. Louis, I think we talked about this a long time ago. You go into churches and you can see the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac in Catholic churches all over the world. Why? Why are the 4 fixed signs of tropical astrology, which are Taurus the bull, its polar opposite is Scorpio, the eagle, the ancient symbol. Aquarius is the face of a man, That's its symbol. And its opposite is Leo, the lion. Those 4 images are in churches all over the world. I went here to St. Louis, to the St. Louis Cathedral. There's Jesus, all these angels, and there are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac in the church. I've seen it all over the place because astrology is in the Bible. It's in the book of Revelation. And so that's why I believe that God created astrology. And I think it's been created since the beginning of time to help guide us, to help us understand life cycles and patterns, energies. I think before it was really to help us be able to grow food and plant and do these certain things and know, and then they started watching it and they started calculating different things and, the old movies, the old days, and it's still accurate. Like, to me, it's amazing to know that, like, the 3 wise men that saw the star where Jesus was born were astrologers. They knew, they followed the star. They were astrologers. And I remember when I was in, I was working at somewhere for someone that was very religious, kind of dogmatic. And she kind of knew I was different and that I did astrology and stuff, but she knew I was a Christian because I'm a Christian astrologer. And so she was asking me, I was shocked that, the 3 wise men were astrologers. She said this to me one day, and I said, yeah, I said, it's pretty interesting, isn't it? And so people kind of know there's something to it, but we're taught not to question. You know what I mean? Like, I remember the first time I dreamed something that happened. Yeah, I'm a very vivid dreamer. Not so much now that I'm older, but in my younger days, always. And I remember talking to a preacher about how I dreamed something and it happened and that it kind of worried me. And they pretty much told me that that was wrong. You shouldn't be dreaming things, like what kind of, but when you're young, you believe it. And so I thought, no. And so I quit going to church. That's when I stopped going to church back then, because I thought that wasn't accepting and helpful and, and educational at all. So I started researching on my own. Like, why would I dream about something that happened and how would I know? And it's like, because there's something out there that we can connect to. I think it's because we're connected to other people. For me, I know that when I connect to certain people, I dream about them. And I can't make it happen. It just happens. And so to me, that's like the collective unconscious. Carl Jung talks about we're all connected. And some people dream. Some people have gut instincts. Other people, meditate and astral travel. Everyone has different spiritual abilities, I believe. I believe everyone could have intuition. Everyone has these things. It's like, but you have to believe in them. You have to open your mind to it. And I think, like, for us, we always believed in this stuff when we were little. I just think we always kind of were. I was always different. I don't know about you, but I mean, I was an athlete and stuff. And so they used to joke me because I saw a golden ball light in my doorway. And I told the basketball team on the bus, they thought I was crazy. I said, I think it was an alien. I said, I don't know. I was frozen. And my mother validated the story. It's the only reason they believe me. And I'd talk about aliens. Like, what if there's life on other planets? I was
Have
always.
you seen anything lately, like with the ball of light?
I've been seeing flashes of light a lot more. I've always kind of done that. Even, I recently moved in April, but even in my other house, I did that. Big white light flash, like, I mean, big, where it gets my attention. Like, I look, that happens to me a lot. And I just feel like somebody's there, but I just say, hello. Yeah. I just let it go. I don't ask who it is or anything like that. Sometimes I kind of know who it is. Like, sometimes I feel like it's my grandmother. Once in a while, I kind of get the vibe that it's her. But it's usually to get my attention. I'm like, okay, what are they trying to tell me? You know what I mean? Like, why are you distracting me over here? And so it's just part of what I live with, but I try to be like in the world and not, like you said, balanced, because when I was young, I always was worried about getting too out there because I was so detached from my body, like from a young, like I always felt like I wasn't in my body. This is something that I had to get over. And I had people tell me, you're up here, you're not in your body. You need to be in your body. You chose to be here. I mean, I would have psychics tell me this when I would go into like bookstores and stuff. And I'm like, and I knew they were they were truly psychic, because I never talked to people about how I didn't feel like I was in my body. Because when I would walk, I felt like I was floating. Like I couldn't feel like I was, my feet weren't like solid, on the ground. When I walk, I felt like I was somewhere else. Like, and I was I was very imaginative. I was very in my mind, like in my head a lot, and sensitive. I just thought everybody was like that. And as I got older, I had to learn, to ground myself and to be in my body, and to balance that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I could see where, this lifetime I didn't choose. I don't have a north node in the 12th house, so I knew I wasn't meant to go, meditate and just detach from this real world. Like I knew I was meant to be in the world, helping people, doing practical, real things. So I had to learn, okay, I'm weird and I know it, and I'm never going to be normal. And that's not me, but that's who I am.
Yeah, but
But I
what
have,
is normal though, right? What is like what do
yeah,
we perceive as normal?
yeah,
Like what we see on TV, like what we watch on Instagram, like
yeah,
what we watch on YouTube. Like that's the misconception is
yeah,
like what the standard of normal is
yeah,
because it changes. I think everybody should realize that there is no normal. Like
yeah,
everybody has a subjective normal. It's like
yeah,
be who you are and be
yeah,
100% in that, you know?
yeah,
Like so to your point about headed in the clouds, like
yeah,
that's me all day long. Like I'm always in my mind. I'm always like in the imaginary. I'm always in the different realities in my visualizations. And it's tough for me sometimes to come back here and
yes,
be here and be in the moment. And I usually get yelled at a lot because it's like, hey, where are you at now? You know, like
I
um
know.
it's
We don't
tough.
hear we don't hear when people talk to us. Someone will
Oh,
say something and I don't hear them. They're like, "Hello." Oh, sorry. Sorry, what'd you say? Because I'm
apparently I
so
don't listen to my wife at all. I don't
same here.
know.
My husband says the same thing to me. He's like, "I've been trying to ask you something. You're in la la land. I'm like, yeah, I'm zoned out, dude. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I
yeah.
go somewhere,
Like, yeah, it's tough for me to be in the present moment sometimes, but
Yeah,
I know how valuable that is because, like,
yeah,
just going for a walk with my daughter, like
yeah,
yesterday, went for a walk with my daughter after work, and it was like we went on
nice.
an old path where I've took the
Cool.
two older ones before, and just going back and reliving these moments with them, like the memories that we create are just so
Yeah,
valuable, and
that's
it's
yeah,
meaningful and it can be emotional. So it's very valuable to be in the present
yeah,
moment when you're in like a very I would say unique situation to where it's going to be like a very like hardcore memory for you. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So yes, but when I am like, when I wouldn't say bored, but when my attention just goes, like there's nothing catching my
mhm,
attention in the present moment, like I am out in the cosmos doing
yes,
something like,
yeah, yeah.
and so it feels so great
I
out
know,
there,
right?
Yeah.
It's a
Especially when I
Stephen.
go for a run. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's that 12th house. And see, I'm a 12th house sun and Venus, so I have a little bit of 12th house too. But your soul remembers that. You didn't have to be here. See, and so now you're balancing both. You're both.
Mhm.
It's your nodes. It's your nodes. But you're doing it. You're mastering it, and you're meant to be doing it. So you can't give up that part of you, because it's what you've mastered. It's your learning.
Sure.
It's your spiritual gifts. It's
As
like the
much as I meditate and try to be in the present moment, like, I still feel pulled, you know what I mean? Like, it's just always
yeah,
gonna be a natural side of me, and it's
yeah,
like, yes, I know when I need to be present. Like, I know when core memories are coming down the pipe, like, I
yeah,
gotta be
yeah,
here for this right now, but I've had
yes,
people tell me I've had seers, oracles tell me that a big part of who I am is out in the cosmos. Like it is me going out and creating the reality and like bringing it back into
yeah,
this. Like that's a
yeah,
big, I feel like just through my meditations and through my
yeah,
experiences, like a big part of my mission is to show others of my similar background, the blue collar folks
yeah,
of the world, the middle class folks of the world, the people um, that have come up in very tough environments
yeah,
and tough communities and hard workers
mhm,
show them a different way of being. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's not it's it's
That's
not bad to connect
yeah,
with the cosmos, with the consciousness that is the universe,
yeah,
to connect with that, have a relationship. How do you build a relationship with
yeah,
source? Like what does that look like? Like I never was taught that. I was always taught
Yeah.
that, again, that heaven is outside of me,
Yeah.
that God is outside of me. The God Daddy is in the cosmos, and he's in heaven, and he's looking down on me, and he's watching everything that I do, and he's
Mm.
keeping tally of all the times that I cuss. Every
Yeah.
time I, yeah, I mean, like
I
just
know, right?
all of that, right? And
Yeah.
my interpretation of God is totally different. Like I don't
Yes.
even think I could define what God is. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
it's 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 something that I can't define, but it's everything too at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's kind of a, to me, it's like a, I just know, like I just feel connected. I just know that I'm part of something. Like every day, what I'm doing, I'm meant to be doing. You know, people, I believe that when I'm meant to talk to someone or someone calls me, I'm meant to be in the real world to assist them, whatever it is, you know. And even in my day to day, you know, work, my normal job you can start feeling burden, like this is a duty, you know, like this is, but I know when I'm doing it, I'm meant to be doing it. And so I embrace that now. I'm like, okay, I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be doing this job. I'm meant to be doing my spiritual work as well. And I know I'm meant to be doing both. And I like to just do one full, but I kind of know I'm not meant to do that yet. I think
Mhm.
eventually, you know, it's like it's timing, like you said, like when something's meant for you, it will happen. It'll happen when
100%.
it's meant to, right? Like,
Yes, you're
yeah,
like I've had this in meditation too. It's like
yeah,
the external conditions have to catch up to your
yeah,
internal creation, and it takes a while. And but again, if it's your dream, you'll never give up on it.
exactly.
If it was somebody else's dream, you'll sell it, you'll quit, you'll do whatever. But if it's
That's
your
right.
dream, and what I mean by somebody else's dream, I mean that
Yeah,
somebody has somehow, somewhere in your conditioning, somewhere in your programming, you picked up on this idea or concept of like what you think you want.
yeah,
And so like it's the voices of that is playing in your head that you want to go after something.
yeah,
And you're like, you know what? You get to the point where 10 years, like if you haven't achieved it at 10 years and you're willing to give up on it, then it wasn't your dream. Because
exactly.
like even at 10 years, I'm still going to pursue this. Even at 20
Yeah,
years, 30 years, 40 years, until my death, until my last breath,
yeah,
I will pursue it. It may look different, but
yeah,
there's a pulling, a drawing towards that. And
yeah,
if we give up on it, you know, you'll never know.
exactly. Well, I can tell you by looking at your astrology chart that you're doing it. You're doing it. Your moon's in the third house. You're meant to communicate. You're meant, you know, it's all third house is all about communication, radio, podcasting, writing, social
It has
networks.
radio and podcasting in my chart.
Yes, yes. That's where you find emotional fulfillment. That's where you find happiness, is your moon sign.
So you know what? Somebody
Yeah.
said something. Somebody was giving me an Akashic field reading,
Uh-huh.
and she was like, "It's written in your records
Yeah.
this," and I was like, "Well, who wrote that? Like who wrote these records? Like who is it?
Yeah.
The same hand that writes all? Is the same hand writing the astrology, like wheels or the interpretations of that? Like,
This is what's cool. The record matches the chart. So when I've talked, I have a friend that's very, very psychic. And since I've known her, she's told me things, and I know it's in my chart. And then she'll tell me things about people. I'm like, oh wow, that's their chart. Like that's this and this. You know, I can analyze it in astrological terms, but she sees the future. So she sees where like their past lives and their future. And she's told me things about me, and like then in my day to day, it'll happen. Like it'll play out, and then I'll have like, oh my gosh,
but
she said this.
do you think that she's seeing this, or do you think that because she's telling you, you believe it, and because you're a creator, you create it?
Good question.
That's the question that I asked myself all
Yeah,
the time, because I've had
yeah, yeah.
conversations with psychics that have told me things that have come true, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, did they tell me that? And I believe that's like,
Mhm.
is that how powerful a belief is, that we
Yeah,
create from those beliefs? And if that is the true like
yeah,
mechanism that creates our reality is our beliefs,
yeah.
like how do I change my beliefs? You
I
know what I
know.
mean? Because like there are
It
some
is.
limiting beliefs that I'm
Oh, yeah.
guarantee are limiting my creation.
Well, some of more of what she does, it's kind of weird. It's like the way she does it is like everything going on right now. She'll see it. She connects it to the past lives. So every single moment that we're going through here, it's not always a new, fresh day. It's replaying with the people we've known before. Like you said, like a dream, like a movie, whatever you want to call it. So in a way, yeah, it can we escape it? Can we alter it? Absolutely. But she'll get a glimpse. So like, okay, let me give you an example. This is really weird, but this is what happened. So when I was thinking about, I was wanting to move, told you there's 2 houses looking at. Every time I would go to that other area of Illinois, I didn't feel good. And this is kind of like you're saying, where you go to certain locations, certain places have an energy. And I'm thinking, okay, it's the energy of the land. That's an Akashic thing too, where the land has an energy. The land has memories. So like sometimes when you see ghosts or spirits and you're living in a brand new house, it's because the land that it's on, there's history and memories of the land. There's a whole Akashic training you can get on that, how to read the energy of the land and stuff that you're on. But every time I would go over there, I felt uncomfortable. Like, I'm like, I don't feel at home here. I told my husband, I don't like these towns over here. Like, I don't know. I like where I'm living over here in Troy. I feel at home over in this area, all this area. And I've moved my whole life. It's not like I've been here my whole life. This isn't my hometown. I mean, I'm not from here. I'm from Missouri, but we traveled all through the military for 20 years. I don't feel like I have a home, but for some reason, I like it here. Their energy is good. Like, I feel good and I'm meant to be here. So I told him, I don't like the energy here. And she calls me because I told her, hey, we're looking at houses. I didn't really say much else. And she said, what towns? And I told her the 2 town names. She goes, I know you don't like Mascuda. You don't like that. I said, yeah. I said, I don't want to be there. She said, that's because of the past. So apparently this was, she told me that I was in some kind of a battle. Okay. I know this was in a past life. I don't remember any of this. She said, but there was a big battle and I ended up living in the area around here where I am now. This was on a past lifetime. And she said that this area is better for me, but this is because they wanted me, I don't know, to move there. And I rebelled. I wouldn't do it. So I settled here. And the people in my life right now were some people that were in that lifetime. She kind of said this to me. And then I started having some problems with some people. I'm not going to say, just kind of some weird things started playing out. And I'm like, everything she said, I could see, it's like a essence, like the energy is from the past, but it's now and we're living it. But it's not like you're trapped to do it. I had free will and choice to buy the house and stay over here, but I listened to my gut. She just verified for me why I didn't like it over there. I mean, it was weird. Like, I never thought, I had a past life over there or anything like that. But she told me it was from a past life. Then she says something to me. This is where it gets weird. So, I didn't tell her this because I hadn't even seen it yet. But in my backyard, there's a Asian gate. It's a black and red gate, and it says this word on it, Keisha or something like that. And I was going to look it up, and I thought, it's interesting. It's an Asian gate. I love it. It's really cool, and it's back at the tree line. So when she was telling me about this past life, she was using these words, and she said that I wasn't like a princess, but kind of like, she called it a princess, or I was like part of this family. And she was going into detail about it. So when I looked up this gate, and it was like in Japanese or something, I looked it up, and it meant princess and something about your family. And I'm like, I got chills. I'm like, what the? So I took a picture of it, and I said, you were telling me all this stuff. I said, I got this weird gate in my yard at my new house. And I said, that it's like all these things were like playing out. And it's so weird. And it's just hard to explain. So I'm like, yeah, I think I had a past life. And then she told me I had enemies. This is what was weird. She said, you had enemies in that lifetime that were against you. But she said, you won the battle. This is what she told me, that I won the battle, or my family won the battle. And that and that there were people that didn't like that. So around that time, I was having these weird things happen at work with some people. And I just knew this one coworker, I'm like, she was there. And I just knew because something happened, it's a long story. And I thought, why is she acting like this to me? This is so weird. And I just watched her, and I didn't take it personal. And I just let it play out. And then when the time was right, I kind of said something and kind of stood up to her in front of the whole room. And everybody was like, because she was being a little bit difficult.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, you guys want to talk about the truth? I'll tell you what happened. And everybody was like, and I just told it like it was. I let my Aries out, and I did in a very professional way. And all of this played out. And then my friend told me, I told her what happened, and she would see more. Like she doesn't always able to tell me everything in the moment. So she'll see other things, and I'm like, that's exactly what's going on. And then like the whole thing, I was dreaming things, and the whole office situation happened. Why do we dream things that happen if it wasn't already destined to happen? Or are we creating it? Or do we get a glimpse of what they're creating?
Yeah.
That's what is interesting, because I don't know how. I just know that something's going to happen, and I know that it involves those people, and sometimes I'll know that they're going to leave, that they're getting a new job. I'll know, and I'll say, you're leaving, you're getting it. And I knew that my supervisor was going to be leaving. And I even told him I had a dream that we were in a tornado. And he just kind of looked at me, and I said, there's a major change coming to the office. And he didn't know what to say to me. This was about 3 months before he even took that other job. So
Wow.
like all this stuff, like I always dream things. That's kind of my way of tapping into the energy. Like you might meditate, get in there. My way is through dreams and through my visual, like writing. Open up, handwriting, kind of channeling, I guess, writing. I'm a
Mhm.
writer, and I'm very imagery, and that's kind of my way. And I'll just see an image, like I'll be doing a chart, and I'll see images in someone's soul record, and I'll bring it into the session. That's kind of what I do. I kind of bring both. And someone they'll say, oh my gosh, how did you know that? I'm like, I'm seeing a weird symbol. I don't know what it means, but does this mean anything to you? And they're like, oh my gosh. And that's the soul record. What it is it's energy. It's not like, Edgar Casey says the book, it's like a library. And he would go to this library in his mind and pull out the book of your soul with your name on it. And there's all the books, but it's imagery. All it is energy. It's the patterns that our soul has
It's how
lived.
you interpret that energy,
Yes,
that's what you see
exactly.
it, you interpret the energy through your method, that is unique
Yeah,
to you. Like Edgar Casey could sleep on a book, and then next he knows the
yeah,
entire book, right? Right.
yeah,
But then, like, there was an important part of his story that really resonated with me. It was like, the part where he he was doing a soul reading for someone, and the idea or concept of reincarnation came up,
yeah,
and he wasn't a true believer in that because of his religion and his dogma. And
yeah,
so when he gave this reading to someone about past lives, like this guy uh, went on like a huge rant about all these lives that he had lived. And Edgar Casey was like, had this existential shock almost of like, because he
yeah,
knew what he had was a gift, and like he was using it as good to help people heal, give them remedies of how they can heal themselves and cure themselves. So when he gave this soul reading, it kind of took him back, because he was like, that goes against everything that I've believed. And he
mhm,
was worried about like how his wife and how his family and his community would accept him after this, because it
sure,
goes against all their religious
mm,
beliefs. And so like think about that in today's world where
yeah,
people that are becoming more curious to these subjects,
yeah,
like think about like what Edgar Casey had to go through, like
yeah,
in his time, in the zeitgeist of when he lived. And
absolutely,
so like I feel like people are more open to spirituality now, because
yeah,
one, I think technology is allowing us to explore more, and bringing some of those literature and documents to light, and allowing us to study and really just kind of see the patterns that are unfolding, with manipulation and programming that society takes part in. But that's
yeah,
another episode.
yeah,
But it allows us even now to kind of do it from like in the comfort of our own homes. So we
Yeah.
don't have to, like, you can have like they can come to YouTube and listen to this conversation,
Yeah.
and nobody needs to know that they're listening to this conversation. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of freedom in spirituality, being able to go out and explore subjects that you're fascinated by, or explore people that are teaching
Yeah.
about psychic abilities, about astrology, that are talking about past life regressions. And ultimately, people just want to know more,
Yeah.
know more of what they are and who they are and why they're here and their purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, every time you come on, we just chop it up, like,
Cool.
for sure. Like, we just have
Yeah.
these amazing conversations, and we can go on for days. So,
I know, right?
how can people find you? How can they buy the new book, Carmen?
Yeah, yeah. The new book, Astrology's Magical Nodes of the Moon. So this is the North Node, looks like a little headphone, South Node, and it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's pre-order. It's out there right now. It's a real easy, basic guide, and it explains about the Saturn return, which is our birth into adulthood that happens age 27 to 30, and how that kind of gets us on our path to our soul mission, which is where the North Node is. And so I analyze, Bernie and I talk about the North Node in every sign and every house and what that means. And then we give tips, very practical tips on how to, balance and reach into the North Node to really, because if you can start moving towards your North Node at a young age, you're going to be ahead of the game. Because most people that don't know astrology, they know they have a mission, like they have maybe a passion, they have gifts, they have talent, but they didn't get validated in it. You know what I mean? So when I do a chart for someone that never had astrology chart done, and I tell them, hey, this is what I'm seeing that you're meant to focus, and you have some karma here, some learning here, and they're like, oh my gosh, that is so true. And then they're like, want to know more. And so this book is a really basic guide. It's for anyone to pick up and read, and they can understand it. It's not going to be confusing like a lot of astrology books. I try to write in a very practical, basic way. And I wrote this book with Bernie Ashman, who is one of my mentors. He's been an astrologer since the 80s, and he's amazing, lives out in North Carolina. And we wrote this book together, and he's been on a spiritual journey too. He's a Sagittarius, been studying consciousness and all these things since when he was in his 20s in college. And he's my mentor. So we wrote this together, and it's out there. It's called Releasing the Past and Embracing the Future, because we got to kind of release the past and embrace these new energies, because that's why our soul chose to come here, is to master and learn something new, which is the North Node in astrology. So to me, astrology validates that tool. It's a tool that validates someone's soul mission, or someone else might use the Akashic records to validate your soul mission. Everyone has their way, but to me, I use astrology as that tool, and it helped me understand my life, and it makes me a stronger person, and it helps me understand other people, and to forgive others, like you said, like be the bigger person. You're talking about, like, with the ego, like, okay, listen, I know they're doing this right now, and I got their chart. I know this is their emotional nature. I know this is what's going on, and I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm just going to be patient, or I'm going to, I'm going to give them some time. So you just understand people. And then, you can't change everyone. You got to accept how people are. And when you know your partner's birth chart, your wife, husband, your kids, you can see these energies and patterns, and it just helps you get along better. And it helps you accept yourself. It really validates your own personality, which to me is the best thing ever.
Sure.
And so,
I love that. Can't we all just get along? Let's read some astrology charts for sure.
I know, right?
Carmen, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming back on. I love our conversations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Trey. This is awesome.